My husband Daniel died 10 years ago, but last night at 3:11 a.m., his name lit up my phone. A new message, 3 words that froze my blood. Are you awake? Before I continue, make sure you're subscribed and tell me where you're watching this story from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. I'm Mara Lewis, 52 years old, a high school art teacher in Asheville, North Carolina. 10 years ago, my husband Daniel was killed in a mountain road accident on his way back from a school fundraiser. A tractor trailer's brake line snapped on a curve, and the impact crushed his car like a tin can. The police report said it was instant, but instant doesn't describe what comes after. How 10 years of silence can still echo every time I open my phone. We'd been married for 8 years. He was the quiet type who saw beauty in ordinary things. The guy who'd stop to photograph reflections in puddles or leave post-it notes that said, "Back in 5, don't miss me too much." After the funeral, I sold the house we built together and moved into a smaller place closer to town. A brick cottage with ivy creeping up one side and a garden Daniel would have loved. I kept his old phone in a drawer beside my bed, still on the same number because I couldn't bring myself to disconnect it. Every birthday, I texted him, "I love you," still, and every year, the message just hung there. Green bubble, no delivery. People say grief shrinks with time. It doesn't. You just grow around it, like a tree grows around barbed wire. 10 years is a long time to convince yourself someone is gone. I had learned to speak of him in the past tense, to smile when his mother called on holidays, to pretend I was okay. Then yesterday felt ordinary in every way. I taught my classes, graded sketches at my desk, and watched the rain start around midnight. I remember the soft click of the radiator and the way the house smelled like old paper and lavender tea. Nothing unusual, until the buzz of a notification cut through the silence. At first, I thought it was a dream, a random spam text maybe. But when I picked up my phone and saw the name Daniel Lewis glowing on the screen, my breath caught in my throat. His number, the one I'd kept alive all these years only to talk to myself. And now it was talking back. For a moment, I just stared, waiting for the message to disappear, for my phone to glitch, for reality to return. But it didn't. The text was still there, simple and impossible. "Are you awake?" My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I tapped the message open. There was no previous thread, no contact update, nothing unusual in the metadata, except that the number was his. Not spoofed, not forwarded. His. And that's how the night that would shatter everything I believed about life and death began. I didn't reply right away. For a full minute, I sat frozen on the edge of the bed, the dim glow of the screen lighting my hands. I read the message again and again, each time hoping I'd misread it. 10 years. 10 years since the police officer stood at my door, hat in his hands, eyes full of pity. 10 years since I last heard Daniel's voice. And now, this. I finally typed, "Who is this?" and hit send. The message delivered instantly. I waited. My heart was pounding so loud it almost drowned out the ticking of the wall clock. Seconds stretched, then the phone buzzed again. "It's me, Mara." For a long time, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just the words, it was the way he always wrote. No punctuation after my name, the rhythm, the simplicity. I typed again, "This isn't funny. Who are you really?" A pause, then another reply. "You're angry. I understand, but I need you to listen." My throat went dry. The message felt deliberate, too intimate to be random. I checked the number again, still his. The carrier hadn't reassigned it. I still paid the bill myself each year to keep it active. Hands trembling, I texted, "If this is some kind of cruel joke, I'll call the police." The reply came faster this time. "Please don't." I don't have much time. I dropped the phone on the blanket and pressed my palms to my face. For a moment, I actually laughed. The kind of nervous, disbelieving laugh that slips out when your mind refuses to make sense of the impossible. But curiosity and fear mixed into something stronger. I picked the phone up again. "What do you mean you don't have time?" This time, the typing bubble lingered longer. Then came the answer. "It's cold here. I can't see much, only light when you remember me." A chill ran through me. Those words, "when you remember me," it sounded exactly like something Daniel would have said. He used to tell me that memory was a kind of sunlight, that people only truly die when they're forgotten. I typed, "Daniel died 10 years ago. You can't be him." "I know," he replied. "That's why it's hard." My fingers hovered above the keyboard. Every part of me screamed that it was impossible, that someone was pretending to be him. But another part, the part that still dreamed of him walking through the door, smiling like he used to, whispered, "What if? Where are you?" I wrote, "Close." Closer than you think. That message made my stomach twist. I glanced around the dark room as if he might be standing there, half seen in the shadows. Another message came. "I can't stay long. I need to tell you something before it's too late. I type so fast my hands hurt." "Tell me what?" "You weren't wrong that night." I froze. What night? No response. I sent another. "What are you talking about? What wasn't I wrong about?" Nothing. The typing bubble blinked once, then disappeared. I sat there until dawn, phone in my hands, waiting for him to reply again. But he didn't. When the morning light finally filled the room, the message thread was still open, the last words shining at me like a riddle. "You weren't wrong that night." I didn't know it then, but that single sentence was about to reopen every wound I had spent a decade trying to close. By the time the sun came up, I hadn't slept a second. I sat at the kitchen table staring at my phone like it was something alive. Every few minutes I refreshed the screen, hoping another message would appear. Nothing. At 8 a.m., I gave in and called my sister, Claire. She was the only one who had seen me through those first unbearable years after Daniel's death. When she answered, her voice was bright with morning energy. "Mara? You sound awful. What's wrong?" I hesitated. "You're going to think I've lost my mind." "I already thought that when you started paying a phone bill for a ghost," she teased gently. "Claire, I got a text from him, from Daniel's number silence. Then, from his number? As in, his old phone?" "Yes. Same one, same contact. I checked the carrier account. It hasn't changed, Mara." She sighed. "There's got to be some explanation. Maybe someone hacked it or the number got cloned. That's what I thought. But Claire, he said things only Daniel would know. He wrote, 'You weren't wrong that night.'" She paused again. "What night?" "I don't know," I said. "That's what scares me." "I can't think of what he meant." Claire's voice softened. "Listen, I know you still miss him, but grief can make us see signs in everything. Just be careful, okay?" I hung up feeling more alone than before, but I couldn't let it go. I spent the day trying to find logic, digging through my emails, the phone company portal, even the box in the closet where I kept Daniel's things. At the bottom was his old cell phone, the one they returned to me after the accident. The screen was shattered, the battery swollen. I'd never been able to turn it on. But I plugged it in anyway using an old cable I'd kept by habit. To my shock, the charging icon appeared. The phone powered up slowly, the wallpaper still the same picture of us taken on our last vacation. Him smiling, wind in his hair, my hand on his shoulder. My heart twisted at the sight. The message log showed nothing new, no recent activity, no sent messages. Whoever, or whatever, had contacted me had done it from somewhere else. That night, I sat up late scrolling through old texts we'd shared. Simple ones. Pick up milk. Miss you already. Don't stay up too late grading papers. And then I found one. dated the night before he died. It read, "If it gets worse, I'll turn back." I remembered that night vividly. The storm had been brutal, and I'd begged him not to drive home so late. He'd laughed it off, saying he'd be fine. I'd hung up angry, and those were the last words I ever said to him. For years, I'd carried the guilt of that, of wondering if I should have tried harder to stop him. And now his new message, "You weren't wrong that night." Could that be what he meant? I decided to test something. I typed another message. "Daniel, if that was really you, please send another sign." Minutes passed, nothing. I almost gave up until I noticed something strange. The lamp on the nightstand flickered once, then twice, and then my phone buzzed again. "I heard you." My stomach flipped. The message had come from the same number. I wrote back, "How are you doing this?" Not how. Why then why? Because you need to know the truth. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely type. What truth? About that night. About me, I felt an old fear rise in my throat. "Daniel, you died in that crash." The police said it was instant. It wasn't. That single word hollowed me out. I stared at it, not understanding, not wanting to. Before I could respond, another message came. "I tried to call you." The line cut before I could. I covered my mouth, tears burning my eyes. Could he really mean the night of the accident? I'd heard the phone ring once that night, then silence. I'd assumed it was a pocket dial or maybe a glitch in the storm. But what if it wasn't? I needed someone to confirm what I was seeing, someone who could look at it with logic. So I called Ethan. Ethan was Daniel's best friend, now a software engineer, the kind of person who believed everything had a rational explanation. He agreed to stop by. When he arrived, I showed him the thread. He scrolled through it quietly, his brow furrowed. "This is weird," he said finally. "The messages are real. They're coming from the same number, but it's like the network can't trace the origin." "What do you mean?" "It's as if the messages are being generated from inside a signal void. No routing path, no timestamp source. It shouldn't even be possible." He looked up at me, a faint unease behind his calm tone. "Mara, I don't know what this is, but it's not a prank. The data looks off." Then, as if on cue, the phone buzzed again. We both stared at it. "He's there, isn't he?" Ethan went pale. "Did you tell anyone I was coming?" "No," I whispered. Another message appeared. "Tell him I forgive him." Ethan's face drained of color. "Forgive me? For what?" I didn't know, but I saw his hands shaking as he handed the phone back to me. "Mara," he said quietly, "I think we need to go somewhere. The police, maybe, or a tech specialist. This is..." The phone buzzed again, cutting him off. "No police." "They won't understand," the 3 dots appeared, typing again. "Meet me where it ended." Ethan met my eyes. What does that mean? I swallowed hard. The crash site. And just like that, 10 years of buried grief cracked open. I didn't know if I was walking into closure or madness, but I knew I had to go. Ethan didn't want me to go alone, so we drove together that night. The rain had returned, thin and steady, like a memory repeating itself. The wipers beat a slow rhythm on the windshield as the headlights caught the mist curling through the trees. The crash site was 20 miles outside the city, a narrow mountain road that twisted along the ridge before dipping into a ravine. Even now, a decade later, I remembered every detail of that call, the static in Daniel's voice and the sound that had followed, the kind of silence you never forget. When we reached the curve, I saw the faint shimmer of the memorial sign the town had placed after the accident, in loving memory of Daniel Lewis, 1981 to 2015. The metal was rusted, the flowers long gone. I parked by the side of the road. The air smelled like wet pine and cold asphalt. Ethan followed quietly as I approached the guardrail. "This is insane," he muttered. "You're sure this is what he meant?" "I don't know," I said, "but if he wanted me here, I'll listen." I pulled out my phone. The screen was black at first, but then it lit up on its own. A message appeared. "Thank you for coming." My heart hammered in my chest. "Daniel?" I typed. "I'm here." Another message appeared. "You were right that night." The storm was worse than I thought. Tears welled in my eyes. "You said it wasn't instant. What happened?" There was a pause, long enough that I thought the connection had died. Then the words began to appear, one by one. "I lost control. The car hit the barrier, but I wasn't gone. I tried to call you. I could hear you say my name before everything went dark." I covered my mouth, shaking. "I never heard that call finish," I whispered. "I thought it was a dropped signal." Ethan stood beside me, speechless, his face pale in the headlights. "You blamed yourself," the next message read, "but you were never wrong. You told me to wait. I should have," I typed through tears. "Daniel, if you're really there, why now? Why after 10 years? The answer came, "Because you're ready to hear it. There's something you need to see." The phone's flashlight flickered on by itself, the beam cutting through the rain. It pointed downward toward the ravine. I glanced at Ethan. He hesitated. "That's not possible," he said, though his voice sounded far from certain. I followed the light down the slope. The ground was slick, the mud soft under my boots. The beam landed on a cluster of rocks near a broken tree. And there, half buried under moss and soil, was something metallic. Ethan crouched beside me, brushing the dirt away. It was a car door handle, rusted but unmistakable. The same model Daniel had driven. Beside it lay something else, a piece of blackened metal, curled and twisted like it had melted, and inside that fragment, glinting faintly under the light, was a phone. Ethan looked at me in disbelief. "That's impossible." They recovered everything from the wreck, but I knew what I was seeing. My hands were shaking as I reached for it. The casing was cracked, but when I brushed away the dirt, the screen pulsed weakly. A faint blue glow like a heartbeat under glass. Before I could touch it, my own phone buzzed again. "Don't be afraid." Then the blue glow on the buried phone brightened until it filled the entire ravine. For a moment, the air around us shimmered, vibrating with a low hum that I could feel in my bones. Through that light, I saw something. A silhouette standing just beyond the tree line. Tall, still, familiar. "Daniel." I breathed. Ethan turned, following my gaze, and for a second I saw the reflection of the figure in his eyes, just before it faded. I stumbled forward, calling his name, my voice breaking against the sound of rain. Another message appeared. "I'm here, Mara." But not for long. "Why me?" I typed, tears blurring the screen. "Why come back at all?" "Because you never let me go. Every message you sent, every memory you kept alive, it gave me a thread. I followed it. What do you want me to do?" "Let me finish what I couldn't." "Finish what?" The answer came in 2 words that stopped my heart. "Say goodbye." For 10 years, I'd avoided that word. I'd said, "I miss you, I love you, I can't believe you're gone," but never goodbye, because goodbye meant final. But now, standing in the rain with his words glowing on the screen, I understood. I typed with trembling fingers, "Goodbye, Daniel. Thank you for loving me." The light around us swelled, then began to fade like a sunrise in reverse. My phone vibrated one last time. It's not the end. Just another beginning. Then both screens went dark. The silence that followed was deep, steady, peaceful. The kind of silence that heals instead of haunts. Ethan put a hand on my shoulder. "He's gone," he said quietly. "No," I whispered. "He's home." Ethan drove me home in silence. Neither of us could find words big enough to fit what we'd witnessed. When we reached my house, the rain had stopped, and the air felt strangely clean, like the world had just been rinsed of something heavy. Inside, everything was still. Daniel's photographs lined the hallway, the same ones I'd walked past for years without really seeing. But that night, they felt alive. His smile didn't ache anymore. It felt peaceful. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the blank screen. Part of me expected another message to appear, a final goodbye, but nothing came. Just the faint reflection of my own face in the dark glass, tears drying on my cheeks. Ethan stood by the window. "You okay?" I nodded. For the first time in 10 years, I think I am. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you think it was really him?" I smiled faintly. "I don't think I need to know." Some things aren't meant to be explained, only felt. He left a few minutes later, promising to check on me in the morning. When the door closed behind him, I walked into the bedroom. The lamp that had flickered before was glowing steady now, a warm, constant light. On the dresser sat Daniel's old watch, the one I'd kept in a drawer since the accident. It hadn't worked in years. But tonight, the second hand was moving again. I didn't cry. I just stood there listening to the soft tick-tick-tick of time starting over. Over the next few days, something inside me shifted. I found myself humming again while cooking, opening the curtains in the morning instead of keeping them drawn. I stopped texting his number every birthday. I didn't need to anymore. A week later, I took the drive back to that mountain road alone. The flowers on the memorial were fresh. Someone else had visited since that night. Maybe Ethan, maybe no one. I placed a small paper crane on the plaque, the same origami Daniel had taught my students years ago, and whispered, "You can rest now." When I turned to leave, a faint vibration pulsed from my pocket. I took out my phone. No new messages, no notifications, just the background image, our photo from that last vacation. And for an instant, I could have sworn I saw his reflection standing behind me, smiling, not haunting, watching over. As I walked back to the car, the wind rose softly, carrying the faintest trace of his voice. "It's not goodbye, Mara, just another beginning." And this time, I believed him. Did you like the story? Tell me which city you're watching from. I love knowing how far our stories travel. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next one. Sometimes the people we love aren't really gone. Sometimes they just wait for us to say goodbye, so we can both find peace. With love and respect, Mara.